And that's what's going on with money. They're debasing it, which means that they are lowering the value. Now, you don't see it very easily. All you see is that these asset prices keep going up. Every time they do this quantitative easing magic, the price of the stock market goes up, and the price of housing goes up, and the price of crypto goes up. And everyone's like, well, I can buy less of it now suddenly, but my income hasn't gone up. That's debasement. So you're now poorer, and you didn't realize how it happened, and you don't understand it, and it makes people angry. So currently there's 300 million users of crypto worldwide. It's growing at 185% a year. So that means by next year, you're at 700 million people. Wow. And then the year after that, you're at 1.5 billion people. We're all on that same journey. So if anybody tells you they know what's going on or where it's going, they're lying. We don't. It's all new. Mm-hmm. It's the fastest adoption of any technology in all human history. So the internet was previously the fastest adoption of any technology. This is growing at twice the speed. So currently there's 300 million users of crypto worldwide. It's growing at 185% a year. So that means by next year, you're at 700 million people.
Whoa.
And then the year after that, you're at 1.5 billion people. So what's amazing about it is, yes, it's amazing, the technology and Web3 and all of the power it gives back to the individuals and all of the great stuff. But the big difference here is by owning the tokens, you're being part of the network as well. So you can not only get the benefits of this new system in a social sense, but you get it in an economic sense too, because it goes up in value. It's like finding Facebook back in 2010 and being given shares in Facebook, that everybody who used Facebook had shares. It would have made everybody rich. Most millennials are now in their early 30s, and in their early 30s, they look at the world and they look at their income, and you can't buy a house. Mm-hmm. And the stock market is expensive. It's at all-time record valuations, and the bond market and all of the investment world is incredibly expensive. And so you're stuck where, okay, you start saving a few $100s a month. The problem is there's no interest rates on your money, so it doesn't grow. But meanwhile, the cost of everything goes up more. So you're actually getting poorer, so you have to save more and more money, and it becomes almost impossible. So what is the factors playing out here? Why is this becoming so difficult? Well, we used to have higher interest rates, but because of this huge baby boom population who are retiring, plus the amount of debt in the system, interest rates have fallen for 3-4 decades now, so now zero. So nobody gets any interest on their money, but we still have inflation. So the normal cost of goods normally has been running at like 2% a year. Doesn't sound a lot, but over time, over a 10-year period, that ends up being 30% or so of your money, that your purchasing power that you've lost. So unless your income goes up or you save more and more and more every year, you're kind of behind the game. We're seeing high inflation. We're seeing inflation at 8%. So then you're really behind the game unless your salary goes up enough and you can start saving more. So everyone's behind the game. But then there's another crazy thing happened. When interest rates hit zero and we got to 2008, that famous financial crisis, the central banks started using something like the Federal Reserve, being the central bank of the United States, started using a different way of trying to stimulate economic growth and save the banking system. And that was called quantitative easing, which is a fancy word to say we're going to print more money. And when you print more money, you devalue the money. So to put it in layman's terms, if you are really thirsty and somebody says, well, I've got a bottle of water, I'll sell it to you for $5, you'll pay $5. Mm-hmm. If somebody gives you 1 million bottles, it's worth nothing to you. In fact, you'd pay somebody to get rid of it because it's cluttered up your entire house. So things that are, if there's too much of something, it becomes valueless or less valuable. Mm-hmm. So 1 Mona Lisa is valuable, 1 million Mona Lisas, not valuable. And that's what's going on with money. they're debasing it, which means that they are lowering the value. Now, you don't see it very easily. All you see is that these asset prices keep going up. Every time they do this quantitative easing magic, the price of the stock market goes up, and the price of housing goes up, and the price of crypto goes up. And everyone's like, well, I can buy less of it now suddenly, but my income hasn't gone up. That's debasement. So you're now poorer, and you didn't realize how it happened, and you don't understand it. And it makes people angry. Wages over the last 50, 60 years haven't gone up. And the reason being is the millennials are in the workforce with their parents. So you've got the two biggest cohorts of people ever competing for jobs. And then there's globalization, i.e. Chinese workers and Indian workers and Mexican workers. And then you've got technology. You've got to beat the robots and AI who are taking everybody's jobs. So wages don't go up very much, but the cost of all these assets keeps going up because people are devaluing the dollar. So that's why it's so hard to get ahead. And that forced me to look at, okay, how do we get around this? What can we do that's more sensible than what we were told? Because our parents were all told, save money, but they had 7%, 8% interest rates. So it adds up pretty quick. But this doesn't work. So what I did is I started looking at all of these assets and dividing them by the size of the central bank balance sheet. So how many, basically how much the Fed have printed. And what you found is the stock market didn't really do much. The S&P 500. The property market didn't do much. So they were just basically keeping in line with what was going on. So they protected your money, but you didn't make money. They were the only things that made the real difference. One was technology stocks, because we live in this technological age of incredible change. And so those things tend to do well. But the thing that beat them all was crypto. Crypto did extraordinarily well because what you've got is some forces at play. One is there's digital scarcity, so you can't print more of it. So if something is being printed more of, it goes up in value versus a thing being printed. So that's great. But the blockchain technology was like a call option on the future financial system and the future of the internet. So you've got something that looks like a tech stock with adoption and has the safety of, let's say, gold. So that became like the holy grail. And then the speed of adoption, everything else is what's driven the price rises. So that's why crypto's been such a good savings vehicle. I made a video on this several years ago that's probably had 3 or 4 million views now on YouTube about the retirement crisis. And back then, I probably did this in 2015 or so. I said, if you are a 30-year-old, your answer is to start saving in crypto because that is the big opportunity because the upside is so much larger. So yeah, that's the only way I see it that you can get ahead. Or start your own business is the other way. So Bitcoin is still the big daddy of the space, and it's the OG. It was the first one to launch. Now, Bitcoin has some very unique attributes, which is that it is got this very restricted, understandable, knowable, non-changeable supply. So you know how many Bitcoin are going to come onto the market every year, and when that stops, when we get to 21 million. It's also the way it's constructed is a proof of work mechanism, which means that there's lots of computers around the world, Bitcoin miners they're called, who have to solve this complicated algorithm, and it's expensive, you need huge computing power. And that network of miners basically protects the network. So there's not a single person that validates everything. It's all of these people. So Bitcoin is incredibly secure and robust. So for a system of money, meaning for savings or collateral, the things you borrow and lend against, it's amazing because it's so understandable, knowable, definable. It is slow because it requires all of this computing power and expensive to do things on. So it has not been used as the kind of applications layer. It's kind of the base layer of the money system, the new digital money system. Ethereum comes along and it does something uniquely different. It didn't set out to be money. Well, Bitcoin set out to be money in some respects. It set out to be an applications layer. Its piece of magic was something called the smart contract. So Bitcoin, there is nothing smart in it. In fact, it's pretty dumb. It just does what it does, which is why it's so perfect. But Ethereum said, well, if we can make contracts code, then almost anything in life is a contract. Me coming on your podcast is essentially a verbal or written contract over email, right? Almost everything in life is a contract. So therefore, if we can record all of these contracts and make them transferable in this new world, then we've created the whole applications layer for money, the internet of value, and everything else. So Bitcoin is more single use case specific, but very powerful in what it does. Ethereum is like the whole internet. So they're very different, and people try and compare them and say, well, one's not the other, and they're not supposed to be. They're both amazing in their own way. You can have a direct relationship with your community. So you've got a community around your podcast. Mm-hmm. Now, where do you communicate with them? Maybe it's on Twitter, maybe it's on Instagram, maybe it's wherever it is, but you don't own that relationship really, and they get monetized by being on that platform by other people. Now, in this world, you could have your own Candice token, where that unlocks the benefits of being in your world, and you now have a direct relationship with the people in your community. And they will start, if they now have this investment, where culture has become an investment, they want to hang around your culture, what you're building, and they're aligned with you. They want you to succeed because their tokens will go up in value if the network thrives, if your community thrives. So they're going to help promote you, do all the things for you. So now you've got a much healthier relationship with your audience, and you don't need a marketing middleman as much. You don't need to pay for promotion as much. You don't need to do all sorts of things as much. But that's just the start. If you're a music artist, well, right now you have to put your music on Spotify, and they give you a very small few cents for millions of downloads. But in this case, you can find your true fans, issue an NFT that gives them either the music itself or some rights to the music or an ability to get the music earlier, whatever you choose. And you're giving your fans now benefit, direct economic benefit, and they will pay for that. You're fulfilling your fans' needs, you are building the needs of the community, and you're trying to all add value together. And that works at so many levels in music. Tickets. So ticket prices, what you and I pay when we go to a concert, is not really reflective of the costs, because there are so many middlemen, whether it's scalpers or whether it's, Ticketmaster themselves, whether it's the venues. Well, if tickets are NFTs, then they become savable. Like, I've still got my ticket from Live Aid in 1985. It was like one of the great events of my life, and I've got my ticket. But if I have that on a blockchain, it's proven that it's mine, and I can sell it to you because you want to buy it from me. Or that community could have thrived for the next 30 years for anybody who held the ticket to say, I was there. And then, maybe we get discounts to other events. Maybe we get, all of the artists who are there want to bring us in their communities. So tickets become an obvious thing that go on the blockchain. Music IP goes on the blockchain. Artwork goes on the blockchain. It can be pretty much anything. Now, a lot of it is still restricted by, so video will go there as well. So whole movies can go that way. Right now, you can't actually put a movie itself on the blockchain. So you have to kind of point to a location of that movie on a blockchain. But technology is moving forward incredibly fast. So basically, this is the entire rails for everything. If you say, I'm going to create a series of 1,000 NFTs for my true fans, and I'm going to give them to you, and those first 1,000 true fans, anybody who owns that NFT is going to get a bunch of stuff. I'm going to have meet and greets. I'm going to release some special content. I'm going to, have, Zoom calls with you. Okay, now those things have value. You've not monetized anything. You've given it to people. Okay, that's a first good start.
Okay.
Because you can monetize later. Because then once you've got these true fans, the NFTs now have value, and maybe other people want to join the community. So maybe you say, well, the actual size of this is 10,000, but I've given them the first 1,000 out. Now suddenly the market will set a price because people will want, if you prove that you're going to add value to the community, then those NFTs will have a value, and suddenly, before you know it, they're trading at $1,000. So now you can sell more of the NFTs to give other people access. But again, you have to keep proving that you're adding value, that it's not just an idea.
Or like a money grab.
No, it needs to be a utility, that we're in this together. We're trying to build something between community member and influencer or artist. Once you do that, once you see that, you know it's genuine. Doesn't mean it's going to work. No. It depends whether the community grows and the benefits are good and it catches on, enough people hear about it. But that's generally how it should be done.